2 o'clock in the afternoon, set up for the evening.
Oh. Right in the middle of your show.
I said,
Not only that, but he goes and
this is the
used to go
spot
half
I'm
an
going
hour
to use
ahead
on
of
the
time.
bandstand. I said, wherever else you want to set your stuff, okay, but this is my spot now.
Right.
I don't like the idea of disc jockeys taking over the bandstand in the first place.
Sure, I understand that.
We're the ones that built those bandstands, you know.
Just so you know, I've never done that kind of DJ work. I've always been in the studio.
Yeah, right.
I personally would rather have live music when I go out than a disc jockey.
In the coffee house, so it wouldn't
Oh.
make noise.
But that's the thing that kind of gets me when you were talking about how far back this goes. But you are a part of the memories. You know, your music is part of the memories of so many people, whether it's a childhood memory from a parade or maybe a wedding or something.
You bet.
Right,
And
yeah.
I wouldn't take $1 million for it. I could have, years ago, I could have found a more lucrative occupation, I can tell you that.
Sure.
But money isn't everything. And the older I get, the more I realize that. People, that's what counts.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure you got thousands of friends in this area, whether you know them or not.
Not only in this area, but even other states. You know, like now for his concertina parties, they come once a year. We get to see some of these people, and that's really nice. You get to see them and see what if they've changed or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah, and renew
Well,
friendships.
What's good about this whole thing is that I played, these were wedding and anniversary dances, and you had a special contact with those people.
Right.
I go to St. Cloud, we go to St. Cloud maybe 3-4 times, sometimes we go shopping down there, or we're there for some other reason. There's hardly ever a time I don't run into someone to come up, either that or they keep staring at you, you know. So, do I know you or something?
Right. Do I have something on my face?
Old couple. We played for our wedding 50 years ago.
Wow.
See?
Yeah.
That's a good feeling.
Sure,
To know that
sure.
it wasn't in vain, see.
Right.
It wasn't just a matter of going out there and playing and earning the money and taking it home.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you there. I have faith that in my radio shows that children were conceived and hands were held.
Yeah, right.
Well, probably the other way around.
Held hands first.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Are you still in radio work?
No, I'm not. Well, radio work. I'm not on the radio right now. I'm not doing any live work. I'm producing a series of programs called Into the Music, which is on famous musical figures from throughout history. So it could be someone that's more rock and roll, because that's my generation. That's where I come from. So I'm doing, let's say, The Who soon. But I also have done Muddy Waters and John Lee Hooker and anyone who's made a profound impact on the evolution of popular music.
Yeah.
And my goal is I'd like to see it incorporated into classrooms, college classrooms, to help, an 18-year-old find their way to, Muddy Waters, someone like that. So it's on radio right now. We're on 12 stations around the country.
Oh,
And I hope maybe by the end of this year to be on 25 or so.
Oh,
Ultimately,
okay.
I'm hoping that maybe I can be on a couple hundred. And we just hooked up with a woman who has another program, a different type of program, but she has 240 stations that she's been able to
wow.
sign up for her program around the world, even New Zealand and Australia and places like that.
Oh, yeah.
So it would be, for me, my way to write my great American novel, on music, to say, hey, this is good, check it out, and give people a way to kind of find their way to it.
Right.
I haven't done anything on the concertina yet.
Do you have souvenirs of any kind?
Jim has a postcard. I noticed that he had it with him.
What I mean is,
earlier.
this is a great thing about it. I've got not only the memories, but I've got a lot of evidence. I've got old posters, and recently I went through some old papers, even cut out the ads, because we were playing 3-4 times a week in the St. Cloud area.
Sure.
Well, your
And,
mother used to keep in the St. Cloud Times. Was it one whole page or was it 2 pages?
there was dance-
They had dance ads in there, and his mother used to cut them out because his name was
They were
on the
quite
majority
separate.
of them,
Sure,
one,
like
one
any
place
good
or
mother would.
another. Right, his mother used to cut them out. Yeah.
The book is back here. And that's the students.
Oh.
Rolling, everything's looks good, sounds good, is good.
Good.
That's the deal like this. These ads used to be.
That over there. This
You got a little box full
Go
of them.
George a little closer, yeah. To Nellie. And try not to bang on the table. That's the only thing.
Yeah. with
No.
with that
Maybe
kind
you
of a microphone.
should want him to turn a little more at an angle.
This way is going to be going like this, and this
Oh.
camera's coming from the side, so
Oh, okay.
I'm set.
Your mother cut all of these out? I mean, there's
The majority
there
of them,
must,
yeah.
there must be
Yeah.
subscribe
hundreds
to
of
St.
them here.
Cloud Times.
We used to get, well, the neighbors bring it over now, but we used to get it, yeah. But that was,
I
that was
came
before my
across those
time when you
clippings.
got
I didn't
these.
even know I had them. My whole box full up
Really?
there.
Wow.
So now I cut them out.
What a good mother. What a proud mother.
Yeah, yeah, oh yes, oh yeah. And she got to be 90 years old before she died, but the last years that she was here, she still booked jobs for him. The dance managers would call and she'd get it written down and she'd get it all correct. She never made a mistake.
Hmm.
The time and the date and all that. Yeah. She was good.
No, what role do you play? My guess is you're sort of like social director, because he's playing, but you seem to be the person that ties it all together.
Well, once in a while I sing a few songs with him when he's playing. And I talk with the people and, PR.
She's a good PR person.
I don't know. Yeah.
She can walk in on a dead crowd she'd never seen before, and by the end of the evening, she knows a dozen people and where they're from and who they're married to, and that's the way it is.
I'm nosy and I like to talk. Even like when we go to St. Cloud and stuff, at the checkout, I'll start talking to somebody either in front of me or behind me or something, make some remark about something that's going on. Then we start talking.
Hmm.
That's how you get acquainted with people.
Sure. It's-
Like the last time we were down there, we were sitting there. He was waiting for me at Walmart. He waits for me up in the front there. And then I came and I sat down for a little bit, and there was an older lady came and we got to talking, and she said she was from Glencoe. Oh, we got friends at Glencoe, and she knows one or two of them that I mentioned the names. That's how you get acquainted with people.
Sometimes you even find out you're related.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes.
Well, I'm that way. If I sit next to somebody at a restaurant and I can't see any sense in everybody sitting there like that, well, I'll start talking. If they don't want to talk, and I go over to this guy. But this is what it's all about. That's how you beat people.
Like when you were
Pays
down the
off.
cities that time, tell about the experience you had at that little eating place when you were down the cities. You were eating breakfast.
Oh, yeah. I went down to Minneapolis. That's where I learned the tuning trade from a fellow down in Minneapolis, down the loop at 7th Street. And in the morning, I went down to the bus depot. That's where everybody ate breakfast, And I sat down there, another guy sitting there, and there, nobody's talking. And so I turned to this guy. He said something about the weather or something like that, and looked at me, who the heck are you? And he answered me, of course, well, he don't want to talk to me. He said, talk to this guy. He does the same thing. We don't want to talk down there in Minneapolis. In other words, he might have said that. But that's the way it was. So I never opened my mouth again. Went there for breakfast the next morning, and I sat there like they did.
Well, so you probably don't go to Minneapolis that much then.
Huh?
You probably don't go back to Minneapolis
Not
that
anymore.
much.
We
I
have
don't
to.
Minneapolis now.
One of my heroes is Charles Kuralt. Remember Charles
Yeah,
Kuralt? On the road
yeah.
to Charles Kuralt, and he said, the farther you get away from the cities, the friendlier people become, in Minnesota specifically.
Right,
And
right.
he one of his favorite places was Ely, and he says Ely's about as far away from the city as you can get.
Yeah.
But he's like, the farther you get away from Minneapolis, the friendlier people become.
There's a lot of truth in that.
Especially if you go west.
West.
Don't go east if you want to make friends.
Right.
Huh.
Right.
No way.
Well, he has relatives in the Dakotas, and the first years we were married. Actually, we went there on our honeymoon to visit his aunt and uncle, and then we went into Teddy Roosevelt Park and stuff. And those people were so friendly. They treated us like a king and a queen. And then every year we'd go back, and the same thing. We made friends up there. They're so friendly. They like people.
Oh, you
They
bet.
like people.
Here's one thing I wanted to know. Jim has called you, and I'm sure other people have, a master concertina player. Is that something that you, is that bestowed upon you? Is it like a black belt in karate, or is it just that you're very good and people say that you are?
He's very good.
I don't know. Do we get compliments like that?
Oh yeah.
They don't usually.
They don't call you a master concertina player, but you get a lot of compliments. I know the last you played for the REA meeting. Those two guys behind me, they're also concertina players. In fact, they took lessons from George. They were just watching every move he made, his fingers and everything. And then I could hear the remarks because I was sitting right in front of him. And it was unbelievable. And then this one guy, oh, he's playing in this key or he's playing in that key, you know. And they were just, even being concertina players, they were just amazed. Right, yeah.
Mhm.
And then, of course, he added a little extra flair to it, you know, too, because he knew they were watching him. Yeah.
What does it take to be a really good concertina player, as opposed to just someone that knows how to play?
Say what?
What does it take to be a really good concertina player?
To be a real good
yeah,
concertina
yeah. What do
player.
you have that makes you, a very good concertina player?
Well, first of all, you got to have a love for it. You got to have love for music, and you got to have love for the instrument, and you have to want to do it. Just like going fishing. You don't go to the river unless you intend to fish. And the next thing you got to do is get your nose to the grindstone. Go to work on it. That's what I did.
Practice.
Practice. And you watch every other musician you see. When I was a kid, I didn't know this old time music, especially. I didn't know one thing from another. So what I would do, I would listen to a record of a very good band, a band that's rated good, and I'd listen to a band that was rated lousy. Then I'd figure out, what are these guys doing wrong, and what are these guys doing right. That's where I learned.
Mm-hmm.
Best way in the world to learn. This sounds good. If these guys are popular, they must be doing something right. This band sounds lousy, they better start over again.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot that way.
He is self-taught, you know.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask about that because you said your mom, she has all these clippings. So I thought, well, maybe, she always wanted George to play the concertina, and this was, an extension of that, but you decided to play on your own.
Well, my mother had a lot to do with me getting into music in the first place because she played the old reed organ. And the organs years ago, they had pump on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
You had a pump with the feet, force the air into the reed organ. And when Sunday came around and all the work was done there, the house was clean, and no more chores to do, she'd sit down at that organ and play for 3-4 hours at a time. Sometimes she'd go back in the evening after the evening meal, play another couple hours. She didn't play any old-time polkas, just very few. But I knew every old tear-jerking country song that was out in those days. And I knew all umpteen verses of it.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but years ago, way back in the probably early 1900s or late 1800s, when something happened, an accident or something good happened, they'd write a song about it. For example, there was an old song called Floyd Collins, The Death of Floyd Collins. There were sad songs in those days. The guy got trapped in a cave. And they tried and tried and tried. They worked with whatever equipment they had. They tried to get the guy out, and they never did. He died in the cave. So they ended up with about 15 verses to that song. And that time there was no communication. So the song was sung on the street corner, and the next guy learns it from this one, next one from that one. And that's where I got started but like I say, it was all tear-jerking music. And then she played some modern stuff too. So that's where I had the first interest.
Modern at the time being, what year would that have been?
Let's see. I'll probably put on your old gray bonnet or something like that. Let's see, in the 30s they were coming out with Just Ball in Me, Baby Makes Three.
Okay, sure. Okay.
Songs like that.
Why is it that you decided to go for more the German ethnic music, right? Was it just that the instrument was more suitable for that, or did you just like this music better?
Both. Maybe I should go into a little detail on this. When I was 8-9 years old, those days there was no traffic in the evening after a certain time unless somebody died or there was something special going on in town. Nobody on the road. It was quiet. There were no diesel engines running. It was quiet, I'm telling you, really quiet, like you'd gone up to the North Country there and just hear the noises from the fish and the animals, And so in the hot summer evenings, I hear a very pleasant sound coming from across the river. I didn't know what it was, but it's music to my ears. And finally I asked somebody, oh, that's the fellow across the river playing concertina. Now it starts coming from this side, quarter mile down the road. What's that now? Concertina. My mother said, why don't you go down there and watch your neighbor play? So I did. And I was fascinated. Here's a one-man band. Got the melody in this hand, got the chords in this hand, and I thought that was great. Also, I liked the music. And it's the first music I heard other than the old tear-jerkers, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, start saving my pennies and nickels. In those days, a nickel went a long ways. These were Depression days. But I can remember just barely when I was 4 or 5 years old. I don't know if I was some kind of comedian or what, but I know whenever we had company, they'd sit around in a circle and I'd be in the center and I'd be dancing. And they start throwing pennies at me. Put them in my bank. When I was around 8, 9 years old probably, I decided I want to get a concertina. Cheapest concertina I could get was $25 for a used one. I only had $2.49 in the jar. So my neighbor, the concertina player, suggested to get a little button key accordion. He said, you can start on that. That's what I started on. You can start on that. So I did. But the button key accordion was $5.95. I still only got $2.49. So my sister helped me out. She says, you order the accordion and then you can pay me back. That's how I got my first accordion. $4.98, I think, from Montgomery Ward. Okay, so I started to play the accordion. I was doing pretty well on that. And then one day I discovered that it was not a chromatic instrument, which means that you don't have all the notes on that you need. And no way, I'm not going to play a song and have to fake a note. That wasn't in my system. So then back to the concertina again, and finally I did have a little money saved, and I bought my first concertina for $25, the used one. Then I went to work on that, and of course in a year or so, practicing 6 hours a day, sometimes 3 for sure, I started playing for little parties and barn dances. And it just went on from there, on and on, until I could had enough money saved to buy a better one. And next one, I guess, cost me about $100 used, something like that. That one I made quite a few $100. I made that $100 over quite a few times with that one. On and on and on it went.
You still have your first concertina, too. He still has that
Oh, yeah?
one. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's the most expensive concertina?
The what?
The most expensive concertina that you ever bought? Do you have a sort of pride and joy concertina that's
Okay, expensive. Let's say $400 and some dollars.
Okay.
But there are a lot more than that now. There's only one manufacturer left down south here, and I don't know if you want to hear that figure or not. $8,500, and they got people waiting in line to get them.
Wow. Are there up and coming concertina players around here? Or anywhere?
Not right in this area, but I think further south there's a lot more influence down there. They've got kids 10, 12 years old starting out, and some of them are pretty good, I hear, too.
Mm.
But not right in this area here. This is it's pretty much rock and roll area here. The young ones get in on the rock and roll. They're not interested.
Although I have friends that play the accordion. I was talking with Nellie. I played the accordion for a short time as a kid. I wish I would have stuck with it, but I didn't. But it's almost like the accordion has better publicity or something. People think of accordions before they think of concertinas.
That's right, because the accordion was featured on national TV when Lawrence Welk was on there,
Right.
Myron Florin.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, there's a story behind this too. Back in the 30s, somehow or another the accordion became popular in America here. I can't remember what made it popular here, but it became popular. And what was happening, keyboard players would pick up the accordion and they could play that immediately, but they couldn't play the basses on it. So they played with one hand. And they used it in the early bands in the 30s and possibly up to the 40s, something like that. So that's how it got popular. And then, of course, the concertina, that was when Whoopie John, you heard of Whoopie John, way back about 1924, before I was born, he was popular. And so people started taking a liking to that music, and I did too.
Who's your hero as a concertina player? Someone that you've heard that you just think he's fabulous? Or maybe she, I don't know.
I tell you what, it's pretty hard to put a title on that. And some of them claim to be the king, like they do, you know. In my book, there's no king. People are good, and it's like automobiles. For one guy is Chevy, that's the only car. Another guy is a Ford man, so on, you know what I mean? And they think all the other cars are no good. And this way with music, too. But I have a certain way of playing. I might be very good at certain things that I do. Some other concertina player is doing a different style altogether. And so I would never label anybody the best of anything. I just don't believe in it.
Sure. Okay, fair enough.
People do different things.
Okay. I think probably what Jim wanted us to talk most about today, and that I'd like to find out about, is the upcoming party. You know, give me a little history on this party, the 30th anniversary. How did it start, and how did it develop?
Let's see how far we got to go back to the 60s.
30 years.
At least 30 years, I'd say.
No, let's go back to the 60s. We had an organization called the National Concertina Convention, I think it was called.
Festival.
National Concertina Festival. And we originated this group over in St. Cloud. It was started by Tony and Betty Wolf over there were in on that, and Pat Waters out of Minneapolis. And that went for many, many years at the Granite City Coliseum in St. Cloud. The Granite City Coliseum was sold. Later, it burned down a few years later. And the people who owned that Coliseum also owned the fairgrounds over in East St. Cloud. And so they moved it over there, and we went maybe 4 or 5 years, something like that, and they were drawing good crowds. And then I pulled out of that one. And they ran one more year, and it flopped. I won't give the details on that, but anyway, the next year I started here at the Mellows VFW. I thought we'd give it a try, see if people would go for it. And if they would, we'd just keep on going. Well, that's 30 years ago. We're still going. Bigger and better than ever.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So you see it as something that's actually, it's still growing, new people coming in?
Oh, yes.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
we get
yeah,
new people in all the time, yeah.
the popularity of the concertina is growing.
Oh, yeah?
You know, the concertina doesn't get a lot of publicity, and but it's there. The silent majority, see?
Mm-hmm.
But they're there. You don't hear about them. You don't get a lot of publicity. But they're all around the state. They're over in Wisconsin and Iowa and North and South Dakota. There's some.
A lot of the groups that are playing around here, they took lessons from George at one time or another. In fact, a lot of the groups that are going to be playing that day, somewhere along the line, these players took lessons from George. The individual people, and then they formed their own little groups.
Huh. That's got to be kind of a fun feeling. It's sort of like your musical children are out there, you know, up on stage. You get to organize it all. Just kind of stand back in the shadows and let them go.
You have to tell them about the 3 generations.
3 generations?
One year we had three generations.
You wouldn't think I was that old, would you?
No.
Well, it started the other way around. I had a little 6-year-old girl took lessons here. I didn't take kids that young in those years. Nobody under 8 years. Her mother lied her age. So she was 6 going on 7. She only lied by 1 year. Okay, little girl did just fine. She grew up, and she married young, 18, 19 years old, and 6, 7 years later, I was teaching her children. 2, did she have 3 of them?
Two boys.
2 boys, okay. I taught them, and then after all this time, actually the grandmother was the instigator behind the whole thing. She was the one who was pushing them to learn. And she came in and she says, I want to take some lessons too. She was playing, but she needs some help. So gave her a few lessons, and when they had the next festival, all 3 generations played together.
They sounded pretty good.
Yes.
Oh yeah, they were all
yeah.
real good,
They were good
good
students.
students and good people.
Do you have the feeling sometimes that you're at least one of the fathers of the concertina in this area? You know, the people that you've taught and just encountered. You know, they're out there. It could be hundreds of people, right?
I just don't know how to answer that. We got a lot of followers, and sure, it's got to start somewhere, and it's got to bloom somewhere too, and that's it takes somebody to do it. So I volunteered.
And you said that when you were a kid, you always liked to perform. You were in the center of the circle dancing or whatever it was. So did you ever get nervous?
Did I
When
get
you
what?
were nervous on stage? Were you ever nervous about being up in front of people?
I
Or?
could say something about that.
Well, go ahead.
No, that really. It's always exciting when you got a big deal going on and you got to work against time or something like that. But I was never fearful of going on a bandstand. And it wouldn't matter if there were 100 people or 10,000, it wouldn't make any difference. I had a lot of confidence.
Give me a story of one of your favorite performances that you were ever able to give, where you were up there and you just thought everything was perfect.
Well,
There were a lot of them.
I don't think I can do it. Every job was an exciting one, and I don't know.
Tell a story about that high school graduation and when you went up and you had to have the kids, come on, go with it. And
Oh, yeah.
that's a great story.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was one of the. That's not too far. Oh, it's 15 years ago now, and I think this was over at Bruton, over in the Fairgrounds Ballroom at Bruton. No, it wasn't. It was up. It was up in the Little Falls area. What's the name of that little town up there? Near Little
Sobieski.
Falls.
Sobieski,
No. There's another one in there, on the highway. It's right on the highway.
Royalton.
It's- it's
Not to
pretty-
worry.
Doesn't matter really. But anyway, it was the party was out at a farm place, and the guy, I can't think of his name right now, he runs maybe you know who he is, over at Little Falls. He owns the tavern there, or he did own the tavern. And he called me. He says, "I got a job for you up here." Oh, okay. Where's it going to be? He said, "Well, you come up here and I'll show you." I thought I was going to be playing at his bar over there. And when I got there, there was nobody around, and I waited and waited and waited, and I asked the bartender, I says, "Where am I going to be playing?" "I don't know about it playing here," he said. And then I'm just about ready to give up and turn around and go home, and then the guy who hired me comes driving in. He said, "Follow me." "Where are we going?" "Oh," he said, "just follow me, I'll take you out there." I end up out on a farm, about 6-7 miles out in the country. As I got there, it was a beautiful place. Grass was cut and the buildings were neat and everything. And there's where you got to play, in that shed. And when I got in there, I heard rock and roll coming out of the shed there. "Wow, what's this?" And I said, "What am I playing for?" And here's this whole bunch of this high school kids. A graduation party. And of course, first thing you know, I'm setting up, and they're looking at me, and, "Hey, can you play this one? Can you play that one?" Another kid come on, I never heard of the songs in my life, rock and roll tunes. And so finally I said, "Oh, you guys better come over here, I want to talk with you." I said, there's big mistake made here tonight. I said, I don't play any rock and roll. You might as well know that now. Not one song. But I said, are you guys good sports? I said, as long as I'm here, I said, I could do one or two things. I can turn around and go back to Melrose and say, I'm sorry, I can't play for you. Or there's another thing we do. If you're good sports, I'll play the butterfly dance, and they heard about the butterfly dance. They'd done that before. And I got a few other dances. I said, and also I said I'll be playing polkas and schottisches and waltzes. And I said, here'd be your chance to get acquainted with this stuff. What do you say? Yeah! Best bunch of kids I ever saw in my life. And this bunny hop, are you familiar with the bunny hop? You make a long line
Sure.
of people and they hop and they go all around. And, well, they didn't stay inside the shed. They went all around the farm. Every kid was in it. And I'll bet I played the bunny hop 10 times that night. But they did get out, and after a while, I said, try polka now, too. And then Grandma got out and grabbed a couple of them and waltzed them around, and those kids had a good time. Now it's 1 o'clock. The dad came over, he says, will you play another hour? He says, the kids want you to stay another hour. And so, well, 1 o'clock in the morning, and they got a beer pig tapped over there, and I told the guy, I said, just getting a time in the party, I said, I'll stay all night if you want me to, and you're going to pay me. But I said, I think you better think that over. These kids are going to get 1 o'clock, another 2 hours. They're going to have enough beers in them. They're going to drive out on that highway, getting in action. I says, I don't think it's worth it. Thank you, he says. I never thought of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, best bunch of kids I ever met in my life.
That's great.
It goes to show you, I had laid my cards on the table there.
Right.
I said, if I leave, you can put your phonograph back on, play your records, or you can get acquainted with what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were nice kids. They're up all night, and some of them, a few songs that I could get in between that they knew a little bit about, and I got them singing. Went over good.
I bet you a lot of them still remember it. It's like, they'll tell their kids,
Sure,
boy, I
yeah.
remember that we did the bunny hop. I bet you we did it 10 times that night.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. You ever do the chicken dance?
Birdie dance.
The
When I
birdie dance.
get a,
Oh, yeah.
Birdie dance.
I don't know, I'm not much of a dancer really, but I get into that one.
Oh, okay. How about the hokey pokey?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Well,
I
they
don't know.
did a lot of
Beer
that
helps.
stuff, and Mexican hat dance, and a few things. Parents got out and said, "Here's how you do that," and boy, they had a really good time.
Tell us how you met. You two met. I would like to know that. How did you guys meet? When did you meet? Where did you meet?
Oh, well, we're married 40 years. We were married 40 years last fall. We went together about, 3.5 years before we got married, 3.5, 4 years, through a cousin of his at St. Cloud. I was staying with her. And that's the time he was down in the cities learning how to repair concertinas and accordions. And he'd come up on the weekend and he'd stop there first on Friday night on his way home to Melrose. I don't know if I should tell the whole story. Anyhow, he stopped on a Friday night and she brought him to my room. I looked like the wrath of God, I think. I had my hair up in curlers and an old bathrobe on, and I just peeked around the corner. I wasn't about to come out any further.
And I was desperate.
So then we made a date for Sunday night. And I play piano accordion for my own amazement. And I told him he knew about that. So I said, well, I'll get my accordion, and we made a date for Sunday night.
That was after I learned that you told me you played accordion.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So then he came up on Sunday night, and we sat and played. He played concertina, and I played accordion in his cousin's living room. And the rest is history.
So you got together and played music. That was
Right.
one of the first main
Right,
things you did.
I
right.
couldn't find
yeah.
anybody else. That
Well,
played.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, you were desperate. Yeah, and the funny part of it is his relatives. They were on my side. Oh boy, he didn't have a chance.
Some relatives, eh?
Yeah, he didn't have a chance because where he was playing for dances and stuff, even as far up as like at New Munich, they saw to it that they'd go so I could go along, and that's how we, They really worked. They were on my side.
Well, rightly so.
So it was actually kind of through music, I guess.
Was it a plus that she played the accordion or a minus?
It was absolutely a necessity.
I wouldn't have had a chance
Those are her
otherwise.
credentials.
Right, well.
If she couldn't have played an instrument, no.
If she would have played the concertina, it might have been like the heavens opened up.
Right.
I wasn't sure how you felt about the accordion. You know? Do the accordion and the concertina work together fairly well? I'm not sure that I've ever seen.
They could be played together.
They could be
yeah,
played
if you play
together.
in the same key. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about the early band? What was the first band you put together? George Servatius, and did you have like, was it just the name of the band? Like,
What? Go get the poster down there, will you? There's the poster down
Is there one?
don't get it now. We'll get all that stuff later. But let's just talk about.
Yeah,
it.
I was thinking about the poster for the 30th anniversary too. Maybe we should have that laying on the table.
Yeah, I'll get all of that stuff later. Let's
Well, there's
Okay.
that great picture like on the calendar. I don't know
Yeah.
if you saw that.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see about 100 of them that I'm going to get. Maybe not today because we have limited time, but I'll be back and I see those pictures and that and that. And
Oh,
that
okay.
And that. So,
Yeah.
but I want to keep us right here, otherwise we'll get off task. But the
Well-
bands as they've grown up, and I've seen the pictures where there got to be more and more people, and they were all dressed up real nice, and
Yeah.
you know.
That was a must in those days.
Mm-hmm.
Now they'd probably kick you out if you dressed up. And came in the But let's see, what was the question now?
You want
the
to know?
bands. Give me your first.
Oh.
You would go out and play by yourself for events, and then all of a sudden it was like, well, let's get a band together. And then you probably or somebody else got a band, and you became part of it. Much like the clown band became a historical thing that's an offshoot of all of your different music. But I remember seeing pictures of you with, you know, like maybe 8 or 10 people within the band.
Okay. Well, first of all, I played with another band before I started my own band. I was helping another band out, area band out. And so I was already known. You could have a 6-piece band or 8-piece band or a 10-piece band. If it had a concertina player in it, that was the guy that people knew. So I already had a following before I started the band. Also, when I was around 12 years old, I started playing for small parties, house parties, barn dances, street affairs, a lot of miscellaneous jobs like that. And so then there was a demand for shower dances and that. They wanted like a 2 or 3-piece band. So I'd pick up a couple of musicians and play with 2 and 3. But by the time, by 1949, the war was over, the ballrooms were open again, and dancing was in. Everybody is ready to go. And there was plenty of work. So I added more members, rehearsed them, and started out booking. And as I progressed the next few years, some members were quitting or moving away or something, and I'd replace them with another, always looking for better musicians until I had all good professional musicians. Then I went out, I had the jobs.
How many musicians was the total? Was there up to like 12 or 8 or what was?
In the band,
Yeah.
6-piece was the
6
most.
piece, yeah,
I
okay.
had to on a few occasions up at Glenwood and Alexandria. I couldn't get in those places, couldn't book there because they wouldn't take anything less than 8-piece band. So I compromised with 7. And but what happened after I started playing at Glenwood, I got a good following over there with the Bohemian people over there. I played a lot of Bohemian music. Had a big following over there. So now when they want to have their wedding dance at Glenwood, they call me up and you got to play. Well, that's how I got in there, and eventually ended up I could play the 6-piece band. Also, they cut the other bands too to 6 and 7-piece. So, other than that, a 6-piece band, that was my regular band. Once in a while, I drop a player if, for one reason or another, if they wanted to save some money or something like that. Or sometimes I couldn't get a 6-player, the guy couldn't go or something like that, I'd play as 5.
A 6-piece band that played 6 nights a week.
6 nights a week? Really? So during those days, it was absolutely full time music, 6 minutes a week.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Wow.
And then you still taught during the days, or weren't you teaching at that time and moved into teaching later
No,
on?
I wasn't teaching.
You started that later. But you've been teaching over 40 years.
40 years I've been
Over 40 years.
40 years ago I started teaching. The reason I got into it was I was selling concertinas at that time. And if you sold a concertina, they said, where are we going, how are we going to learn to play it? Where can we get lessons? Come on over here. Okay. Didn't take long. After a few years, the concertina player is getting pretty good, and the younger brother wants to learn to play drums, so they play together. So now I've got a drummer for a student. And this kept mushrooming until when the guitar became popular there for a few years, I was teaching 4 days a week that time. Everybody had to have a guitar.
So you were teaching all those instruments? You would teach concertina and drums and guitar?
Whatever they wanted, yeah, I taught.
Huh. Are you one of those people you can pretty much pick up a musical instrument and figure out a way to make it work?
Oh, sure. Get that one over there.
Oh yeah, that one over there. Yeah.
You just push the button.
But,
Well, yes.
and I saw you
That's
in
the
the picture.
instrument I play.
You had the saxophone that you played with your band, and then you mentioned that you played trumpet sometimes. So
Okay, there's two. I taught both of those instruments. And then we had one family of 14 children. I taught 9 of them, so they had a family band. And they had a bass horn in there, and we got the bass horn started, and they had 2 piano players. They had 2 accordions, a concertina, and I don't remember what other, a lot of duplicates in there. But people would come in here. Now, there's some people who homeschool their children, even now. Well, they don't have the opportunity to take up musical instrument because they don't go to high school. So they'll come here, and once in a while I've had like a mandolin. Somebody comes in with a mandolin, and they said, well, sitting up in the attic, can we learn to play it? So then I'd have to do a little research on it and learn how to do it. Then I could teach them, yes.
hmm.
And keyboard? You
Keyboard,
mentioned piano.
yeah.
You mentioned
I
piano.
have keyboard students now.
So you are, if you want to be, a one-man band. You can play just about anything you set your mind to. You have that kind of confidence in you. You just have that in you.
With practice, yeah, sure.
Do you think it's something that you had, like it was genetic, that was born into you? You said your mother played. I don't know about your father, but is it just something you've always felt that you had, or did you? I know you worked hard to develop it, but you felt you always had that?
There was always music in our family. My older brothers, there were guitars in our house from the time I was born, harmonicas, and we called the Jews harp. We call them Jaws harp now. I suppose the Jews didn't like that. They changed it to Jaws, but they were called Jews harp in those days. And I had music all around me, and we sang. Everybody sang in our house. While they're working or going around chores, everybody sang.
Do they whistle too? You don't hear people
Well,
whistling
everybody
anymore.
whistled those days. Yeah, they did.
Well, as you were saying, it was so much more quiet back then. Now we're so distracted, and there's 140 channels.
Right, yeah, right.
And music must have been really important for everybody back then, as a way to, well, it still is, maybe even more
Well,
important today.
Yes, it was, because there weren't as many hobbies that time. People didn't travel that time. In the Model A days, you didn't you didn't go to New York or someplace like that on vacation.
Mhm.
And sure, people entertained themselves more all the way around in those days. You betcha.
Do you want to follow up, Jim, on maybe ask some questions about the upcoming event? Because I don't know enough about it to really ask good questions.
I guess I would just say, just describe the event as best you can. Just talk about the event. Talk
Or-
about people, places,
Or if we could,
things.
if we had a poster, to show you a little bit
I'll
about it
say.
too.
Uh-huh.
Whatever you want to do.
Next Sunday afternoon VFW Club is going in here in Melrose is going to open their doors at 12 o'clock. At 1 o'clock, we're going to open our party. There'll be people waiting to get in when we get there. It happens every year. Some will be carrying concertinas, some will be carrying accordions, some just coming to listen and dance or whatever they're going to do. But anyway, as soon as we get organized, got everything ready to go, PA system, everything ready to go, whoever's ready to go starts out the program there. They'll play for 15, 20 minutes or maybe longer if we don't have enough waiting. And when they're done, then somebody else takes the stage, and this goes on all afternoon and evening. There's no break. There's always somebody there to play.
The only break is setting up, one getting off and another one coming on. That's the only break.
Mm-hmm.
There is no admission charge. Everybody's welcome. They can come and go the way they want. And some people do that. They have a commitment probably for the evening, so they come in the afternoon, or vice versa. And some will come in just to see what's going on. They might leave after an hour or so. Some of them go somewhere else, come back again. There's traffic all afternoon and evening.
There's some that come stay all day. They come early and they stay all day.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to mention one in specific, and that's Dan Reamer from Browerville. He's been our most faithful person. I think he's only missed one party in the 30 years. Him and his sister have a band.
Will he be playing?
Yes, yeah, they'll be playing.
How many musicians altogether throughout the course of the day?
Oh boy, I wouldn't know. I have no idea how many that played during all of them.
Well, I don't know. I guess maybe we get through 7, 8 musicians an hour, and some of them play with different bands too. Some of them,
Right.
They play with different bands.
Tom Paddock plays.
Do you know Tom Paddock?
You know Tom, who plays with George Maurer? I would have.
Well,
probably guessed
I've
him
seen the
to
George
be
Maurer group. I just
Yeah.
don't know that I've met him.
trumpet
you know.
player.
Yeah,
Trumpet
he'll be
player.
there.
Okay.
If he's not playing somewhere else.
If he's playing at
He's a
Sauk
busy
Center, he's
guy.
playing at Sauk Center part of the day, but he plans to be there part of the day.
Yeah, he's been to most of our parties.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a musicians party that we run too.
Ah.
Just that's open to all musicians, guitar players or whatever. And this one is well, we have guitar players and that here too, but it's meant for concertina and
Right.
accordion players.
Yeah, you cater more.
So they
to
got to
that.
have a concertina in the band. It's like when they play a partner, they got to
It
have.
can be all kinds of different bands, but there's got to be a
Gotta be a
concertina.
concertina, right?
I got you. As prescribed by, I saw your belt buckle there with the World Concertina Congress.
Oh, that's right. He's a member. Was elected into the World Concertina Hall of Fame a few years ago.
And where's that?
Oh, you got your award in Michigan, but where
What's the
is
name
it?
of- oh, is
World
it-
Concertina Congress is what they call it.
Yeah.
But World Concertina Hall of Fame, that's what you.
What city was it in? Yeah.
Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Oh yeah, Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
That's right, 1988.
88, 86.
This is a big honor
86.
because it's a world thing, you know. Means you've done something worthwhile for the concertina industry.
He got the award because he promotes the concertina,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I'll
Not
have
just
to
plays
check the
it. But,
website out.
Yeah.
I'll check the website out.
oh,
Have you ever had the chance to go to Germany and take a tour around there and maybe play a little bit?
No, I have no desire to travel to foreign countries. Oh, sure, I could have gone along on any
yeah, we
trip,
could have.
you know.
We
but
could have gone a few
not to
times
play,
already.
no.
I just would have assumed that either maybe your parents had come from Germany or your grandparents or something, and they might have, encouraged you to go back or something. I don't know how far.
No, we don't have any connections over there. My mother didn't come from Germany. Her folks came from France.
Oh, okay.
She was all French.
Servatius is not necessarily a German name. I don't know where does that come from?
It's a Latin name.
Oh.
There was a saint by that name. I didn't know that either until I ran into somebody that remembered there was a litany with Saint Servatius in.
Ah, wow. You
And,
said, well, that's not me.
It's many, many years ago.
He doesn't take after that saint though.
Oh, wow. I don't know if you want to put that on video.
yeah, yeah. Well, he's going to edit this, I hope.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he will. just so I know, you were going to speak up before when I asked George if he ever got nervous, and you were said, "Well, I could say something about that."
Well,
Look, that's only once so now.
only well, you weren't really nervous. It was he
apprehensive, let's say.
played when
Apprehensive.
apprehensive. Yeah, I don't know if you know the name Tony Wolf. He was from St. Joe, from the Deutschmeisters Orchestra.
Okay.
He died a few years. Well, it's quite a few years ago already. He died of cancer, and they asked George to play in church, and that was the first time that he ever played for a funeral in church. And he wasn't. He was apprehensive because he wasn't sure what part of the services to come in where he was supposed to start playing and stuff. That's why he was a little nervous about that.
Sure.
But he did a great. He played
Wow.
for quite a few since then.
She knew all the church parts. I didn't. I probably play her in the middle of something, where I wasn't supposed to be
supposed to be
playing.
kneeling.
But
That's-
he's played for a few funerals, and the last I have to tell him about Tony Manning's funeral.
Oh yeah.
He was up in the choir, and Melrose St. Mary's Church has the best acoustics of any place around. They don't need any microphones really for that. It's beautiful acoustics. Well, anyway, that's nothing to do with the story. But this fellow that died, this Tony Manning that played with the clown band, requested George to play When the Saints Go Marching In at his funeral, and the family also requested How Great Thou Art. So during part of the mass, he played How Great Thou Art, and after the funeral was over, when they were walking out of church, he played When the Saints Go Marching In. We've got a good priest here, Father Vince. He started singing it, and everybody in church was singing When the Saints Go Marching In. Well, that isn't a very long number. It's a short number. So then George went into, When the Saints Go Marching In, went into the Barbara Polka, which the clown band played. That was one of their first numbers. Tony always liked to start out with that one. So he played the Barbara Polka, and everybody was humming along to that. The choir and everybody was singing along to that. So we sent Tony out on a happy note.
That's good. Well, that's just the thing. Concertina is a happy sound.
Right.
So a funeral might be kind of a challenge because I think you probably enjoy making people happy with those sounds,
That's my
right?
job.
Right, yeah.
My job.
Well, this wasn't. It was a mixed feeling. He was an older man, and yet he had cancer and he had a bad heart, and he knew he couldn't get better, and it was kind of a mixed feeling, happy
Sure.
and sad. Yeah.
Sure.
But that Tony Manning that I'm talking about, that's his mentor. He was the man that was playing up here that George heard.
Really?
Lived up this
when it was
way.
so quiet and you heard
my
that was
neighbor,
him?
yeah.
Right, his
Really?
neighbor, right.
And then we played together in the early years, and he got married, and he sold his concertina, and he got married, traded in on a washing machine. We used to joke about that. And so then the barn dance jobs, I was just a kid that time, and the barn dance jobs that he used to play, when they'd call him, they'd send them to me, and I'd go out and play those jobs. So that's where I got started, and I got years ago, they'd have barn dance for any occasion that came up there, maybe even a birthday party.
And
They
they
liked
went
to
all
dance
night.
out there.
They went all night. He couldn't even drive a car that time. He was so little. They had to come and pick him up.
I'm
Would you
glad
say
you
4
told
o'clock?
him why.
Yeah, he was too young to drive a car. They pick him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He didn't get home till about 5 o'clock in the morning.
That was my first barn dance job.
Yeah.
It was save a trip, so when they came in to get the beer in the afternoon with the Model A Ford pickup truck, I figured might as well pick up George right away if he's ready. So I was out there 4 hours before I started playing.
So you sort of came with the beer.
That was my first job.
Yeah.
Everybody was happy to see you.
They'd set up, they'd push this hay back in the barn, and it was nice and clean up there, and they hung gas lanterns, no electricity in the barns.
Yeah.
Take the gas lanterns. They put up a little bandstand. That made me feel pretty big in the stage. But I played and I played and I played till 12 o'clock, square dances and everything. I didn't have a lot of songs that time, I would play them over and over again. During the square dance, didn't make much difference. Play the same song all the way through. But anyhow, finally, 12 o'clock comes, come up with a big pan full of sandwich, big bread pan, loaded with sandwiches. Oh boy, that's it now. So I ate lunch with them there, and I thought, well, I suppose I can start backing up. Well, they all had a drink, and a half an hour later, then they started the party. Went till 3 o'clock in the morning. I got broken good that first night.
I'd like you to talk a little bit about the different styles of music that concertina music will produce. In other words, you once shared with me that the concertina in Louisiana has a different kind of influence as compared to, or musical styles. There's, the polkas and the schottisches and the waltzes. What's your most favorite music to play on a concertina? What style of music?
I can't answer that, because if I play an old-time polka on a concertina, I play it like it should be played, and I play it so people can dance to it. The same thing, waltz, schottisch, whatever I play. If I play in church, I do as the Romans do. It doesn't sound like a polka then. I'll make it sound like church music. And I guess if you ask me if I took all the music and kept one sheet of music to play, I'd have a hard time making a choice. I like to play Christmas music. I like to play hymns. And dance music. I played a lot of dance music, It's a hard question to answer. I just like to get a good sound out of whatever I'm playing.
Now
when you play a
for
polka, you play like a polka should sound. When you play for a funeral march, you play like that should sound.
Right. He plays for a lot of nursing homes and assisted living and nutritional centers now. And there's older people there. So he plays the older style foxtrots and country western. That's what they like and what they remember the best. Right. So he has to know his crowd. What he thinks they like, and he can tell by playing a few numbers. He can tell what the crowd likes, and then he kind of goes with what they like to hear.
Always.
He
Mhm.
plays
Always.
for the people.
Mhm.
He doesn't play for himself. He plays for what the people want.
That's the secret
Yeah.
of making the success of a band. You please the people. You don't play what you want. You play what they want or what's good for them. But what you asked before, Jim, about different styles, and you were talking about the Cajun style, I think, down in, where is that? What state?
Louisiana.
Louisiana. These are French people, and they play the Cajun style music, and they get into, you hear some of that music on the radio, I'm sure now. They play country songs, and just like we have country music here. Those are accordions that they play down there.
Mm.
And they're tuned to sound the way they do.
Button key accordion.
That's their style. And then you go over to Chicago, and you got Polish style music, and they go, go, go. They got a lot of action in their music. That's a different style again. And I've come across concertina players years ago, one in particular down in the cities, and he told me that the only music he plays is hymns. Never played any polka music on it. And that was kind of unusual. But that religion he had, I guess there were all certain religions, that's the only type of music they go for. They don't listen to polka music or rock and roll or anything else.
Mhm.
They're grown up on church music, and that's what they play.
Well, we're down to 2 minutes of tape. Al, any one last question you might want to just pose to him, or we can just wrap it at this point too.
I don't have anything in particular, but I think I'd like to know more about this. It's the 30th anniversary of this particular party.
Right.
So just anything that you could that you'd like to say about how this thing is developed, and I would be really happy if I were you that the whole thing was still going after 30 years and not just limping along, but seems like everybody's still looking forward to it, and it's a big thing.
I should maybe mention that we sell concertina music. I sell concertina music that day. And these are George's arrangements that he has arranged with people like his. It's easy to read, and it's not, it's very neat. And we also have some concertinas on display that day so people can look and get some idea what they look like and if they like a certain kind or what. So that we have that besides the musicians playing.
Mhm.
Right.
And people will dance, people will sing, people will visit.
Right.
That dumb.
Yeah, that's really
These
gives-
people get acquainted there, boy. I'll tell you.
It's where good friends gather and new friends meet.
That's right. I was
That's
just
our
I
slogan.
going to read that.
That's
I also
our
like
slogan.
George's big annual concertina party. I like the title. It's big annual, you know?
Right.
It's
right.
big.
Yeah, it's big.
We make
It's
it big.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
I think maybe I should read this to you. It's public notice.
what's the public notice line?
You are hereby summoned to appear in person along with family, friends at the Melrose VFW Club at the hour of 1 p.m. on... No?
Yeah, open the door.
That's what we should do. Let's not go in right away. Okay,
Welcome to George's big 30th annual concertina party. This is going to be a great, great time.
Okay, open the door.
Yeah, and I put something in there for you to read, too.
Hello, George. How are you?
Good candidate for picture taking. I have about 100 taken already.
All right, good. Rollo. This is Rollo. This is George Servatius. Rollo's helping me video record a little today. So,
Thank you for keeping this going, for doing this hard work.
so
Right now I'm trying to get the X lined up.
well, I'll let you get them lined up, and we're just
Some are
gonna.
waiting and some aren't ready to go. Take yourself at home and help you sign my autograph card here too.
Okay, I'll do that. Should I do that now? Let's do that now. Let's sign it.
Anyway, you want to start that side over there and then we get that. I don't know what it is.
I got change. I got change, all right. Got change.
Yes. They want big bucks for those.
$4.25.
Yeah.
But this is Bud Smith. He lives right here in Melrose, and he's a very good friend of ours and a good helper too in setting up this party. And so I want to thank him for that. And on the drums, Tom Gannon of Glencoe. In just a few minutes, we're going to have another concertina player coming up. In the meantime, I've got one young man left over from the musicians' party, which we had a while ago. Normally we only have concertina and accordion players on this program, but we couldn't get Eric in that day, and I really want to have him have a chance to be heard, so we're going to let him play just a few numbers for you now before it gets too loud in here. Right, Eric? Yeah. What's number one?
I'm ready.
I wanted to know, what tape would you suggest for somebody just getting going here? Now, I don't know how to play the concertina. I might like to learn someday, and I'm wondering, I chose these two pieces of music because I like the names of the songs. And I'm wondering about these 6 Fats. I'd like to buy one of their tapes, I think. And what would you suggest?
Which one of them? Maybe one like this. It's got different numbers on it. Yeah, I think these are on there. That's
Okay.
Something to show you when you got a minute.
Yeah.
Something I think you could be interested
But
in.
I'd go that way. There's more than one number, you know.
Excuse me right now. I'll be back.
All right.
No, that's okay though. I'm
Ricky
asking.
Yankovic is a good one.
You like him?
Yes, yeah, we do.
So this would be something you'd listen to then?
Yes.
Okay, and
Yeah,
then
more, even more, well, either one.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I'll get you.
Or I'll tell you which one. I'll tell you my favorite.
Yeah, what's your favorite?
This one.
Whoopi John?
My favorite. These are this old band that he had many, many years ago. I think you would like that one. I would suggest these two.
Okay.
Unless you want the three, you can take my three if you want, but I would suggest these two.
Okay. I'm gonna get these two then.
Okay.
I'm gonna get these two and these two pieces of sheet music.
Okay, that's fine.
And Nellie, this is a good friend of mine, Rollo.
Hi.
Rollo's here helping me video record and tell the story. She's a master storyteller.
Raoul?
Yeah.
My birth name is Laura, but everyone's called me Raoul for like 15 years.
Yeah. Well, my name is Nellie. That isn't my real name.
Oh, okay,
either,
so
but-
you understand.
Yes, yeah. I've had some friends I never knew what their real name was until they died. And I saw it in the paper.
Yes.
Oh, and so I think this is just a wonderful thing that y'all have put together here and continue to keep doing.
Yeah. It's a lot of work, but we enjoy it. We like people. I guess that's it. Yeah.
Does George still give lessons?
Yes, he does. Yeah. One day a week.
One day a week. What day is the week?
Monday.
Monday.
Monday. Like tomorrow, no, he's got a student already at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
He's got what?
A student at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then about 3 of them in the evening tomorrow. Yeah, but once a week. Now, what did I tell you? I didn't.
You haven't told me, no?
11.50.
Okay. And I have a 1 and probably 50 cents if you'd
I
like
have
that.
50 cents for sure for you.
I'm going to put this, Jim has one of these, so I'll put this in there.
Oh, okay.
It's a little write-up about what
Oh,
George
great.
Jim knows.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
He was there the other day to interview us, and we gave him one.
Great.
She knows Al Neff also.
Yeah.
He
So,
was very good with the questions.
yes.
Yeah.
He's a professional.
He's a great
So
storyteller.
I'm gonna, you said 11.50, so and then you can give me a 10 back or 2 5s if you have it. Thank you.
All right, folks, stand up, take a bow. And his parents are Gene and Cindy Emdick. And Eric forgot to get his age. What is it, 10 now? 9? 9 years old, that's Eric. We'll have him back again. Next time we have a musicians party, we'll check it on again. Right now, we're going to have Art Finsky of Minneapolis. Come on, Art. Art Finsky of Minneapolis, longtime friend and music associate, the leader of the Jolly Coppersmith Band. You've heard the records on your radio, I'm sure. Now back to a single then. He's going to do a couple numbers for you. 5, matter of fact. 5 songs coming up by Art Finsky.
Where do I sit? Here?
How about Neff first?
Testing, 1, 2. Oh yeah. Okay. Okay, let's see if we can go for it. George, what a wonderful deal this is. 30 years, I've known George for 50, and guess what? I said, are you 70? He says, no. So the guy's getting younger all the time. He's probably 60 now. Yeah. Okay, here, we'll start with one polka and then we'll do some waltzes. Let's have a party. Oh, I did have a board. Can you give me a board, sir? Yeah, I got the one set on the thing. Okay, here we go. Ready?
Let me video record that spring jacket.
For the bartender.
Yeah, open it up. God.
Yeah, a shot of that side, a shot of that side of it. They want to know if I've been any place I got the patches.
Were you playing accordion then earlier? Yeah. That was just you, yeah. Very nice. You're great. Well, we'll come back and talk to you in a little bit. We'll saunter around. Bud Smith's got his spring jacket on.
I saw that.
Can't believe it. Funny.
Okay, here we go. One, the bartender song. We'll do some few, hit the bartender.
Can't stop very well. Beautiful time.
Hi, dear.
real good. I get goosebumps. Harold's here.
Yeah.
And that little boy, I got that little boy playing concertina. This is a memory maker for him. This must be the dad then? Yeah.
He's a concertina player also.
Yeah. Nothing better than dads and kids having fun.
You're not going to have enough cake.
That's for Tony Morheim. That's for Tony and Tom's still at the drums there. We're coming up next, a good friend from Cayuga, North Dakota. His first time he's appearing on the program. And we want you to welcome him right now. He's going to do some concertina songs for you. Yes, sir.
Are you guys going to be down at San Diego still deal?
We better run. I'm fine with the fishing.
Are you?
That's my boyfriend from Rochester. That's my boyfriend from Rochester.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, get out of here with that thing.
With him, we'll switch down to
I know what that's like being on the other end of the camera.
Oh, yeah. I just used to live in town.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
They're going to be playing after a while too. If you want to. Yeah, sure. Danny's talking to him right now. Dan Raymer.
Okay.
She asked me to record it. there's all kinds of room in the floor, folks. For those of you. You knock him dead. I'm not going to be here to see you. So, but George and Nellie, they're the best.
All right, take care.